again, this is Dan Reel with Fraudclosure 101, and this particular video is Fraudclosure 101 for Landlords. And I'm talking to most of you people out there that have multiple properties that you do not live in. Of course, the exception to this is, a lot of these factors matter, assuming you are a landlord and you live in a multifamily that you actually rent out. But I'm focusing for the most part on landlords with multiple properties here that happen to be in a foreclosure situation, of which there are many, and the reason there are many is because, we had what was called a market bubble, all right? So, number one, the market will not recover. It will not recover, okay? Read my lips. The market will not recover. It won't happen. Why won't it happen? The reason it won't happen is because a lot of money over the course of many decades was released via government distortion, to kind of put it shortly and succinctly, that enabled a lot of people in your position to go out and qualify for loans that they otherwise wouldn't have qualified for, that no smart banker would have ever made. Unfortunately, we are where we are now, and a lot of you people in this situation watching this particular video rode the bubble up. Now you have property that is effectively underwater. So, number one, you have to bear in mind that it's going to take at least another 10 years for this to flush out, and all the problems related to foreclosures, to get resolved on a widespread basis. So you're looking at another 10 years, realistically. Yeah, sure, the market will go up, but then it's going to go down. But then it'll go up a little bit, then it'll go down. The bottom line is, the economy is trying to correct. The government and the banks do not want it to correct. So the Fed's out of ammo, and the bottom line is, the days of cheap credit are gone. You're going to have to live with it. Number two, taxes will not decrease. Any landlord who thinks that taxes are going to decrease, especially property taxes, is sadly mistaken and is up for a very, very rude awakening, especially in the People's Republic of Connecticut. Now, there are places in Connecticut which are particularly a bad idea to buy property. I don't mean to name names. Okay, fine, I do. Norwich and New London, forget it. Your property down there is, it's great to have cities that hand out a free everything forever. And if you happen to live in those, or own properties in those towns, you might want to get out, and nothing can help you. Bridgeport, Hartford, they're not great. They're not spectacular either. But things are the way they are, and taxes will not decrease. Vacancies are not better than lower rents. And I know this is, forgive me for not going into the nuts and bolts of litigation on this video, but this video is, again, the whole series of these videos is about helping you get out of this mess. And in the equation of things, if you're going to sit down and make the bank an offer, you have to start getting realistic about where you are. So vacancies are not better than lower rents. You can say, fine, I have this 3-bedroom house, I want to rent it for $1,200. Because I've got all my real estate friends, and that's what they're trying to do. Well, in my experience, you're going to run into a problem doing that. The first problem is, people can't afford $1,200 a month for that, okay? The second problem is, let's just say you get somebody in, you need a tenant, you just take the cash, you don't look at them terribly, and the reason, you do this is because it's been vacant for so long, so they'll get in, they'll probably pay rent for a few months, and they're going to become what we call professional tenants, and they're going to stop paying you, because whatever happens. So the bottom line is, you're better off, say, lowering the rent a few $100s than saying, I want this artificially high number, because, let's face it, while you're not renting the property, things like taxes are piling up, insurance piling up. You're going to need to clean up the property to make it sellable. You're going to need to keep it presentable. So if you're not doing that, if you're not renting it out at a lower rate, you essentially have a cash furnace, okay? Number 4, you are not a consumer, okay? I will say it again. If you do not live in the property that you own, you do not benefit from consumer protection laws like the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, like HAMP, like HARP, like all of these home modification things. You are not a consumer in that situation. So regardless of whether you're representing yourself or you've hired an attorney, or a researcher or whatever have you, don't pretend you're a consumer, because you're not, and you're just going to waste your time doing it. I just want to put that out there right now. And finally, this also has to be considered, for your overall strategy. Property can be a liability and an asset. Now remember, just because you own property doesn't mean it has, there's no liabilities. I mean, accidents happen. People could slip and fall. Okay, somebody could, there could be like a sinkhole in the property, and even though they're trespassing, they walk across it, they fall in, break their ankle, and next thing you know, you have $1 million lawsuit on your hands. Attractive nuisance. If you have a property that is in significant disrepair, say like it's a burned out shell, like it caught on fire 2 years ago, and nobody's been over there to fix it, and there's broken glass and boards and nails everywhere. A kid wanders over to the old site of the property. He ends up cutting himself or hurting himself. Well, guess what? That's a suit based on attractive nuisance right there. And finally, tenants. You landlords know this. Tenants can create a liability. And in the wrong situation, let's just say you wanted to make a fast buck, so you rented out something that wasn't exactly up to code, or you're dealing with a situation where like you thought it was up to code and the building inspector got it wrong, or something like that happened. And you move a tenant in there and you discover it when you have the tenant. Well, guess what? Chances are the tenant may have a legitimate claim not to pay rent. In which case, you're still operating like the lights in the hallway or whatever, and you're still paying to like upkeep the property, but you're not getting any money for it. Now, finally, and landlords, please watch this video in tandem with the other videos. This one is just specifically to you, and I wanted to make sure this information got to you because you need it now, especially if you're in a foreclosure. Consider this. The formula here is rent minus taxes, minus insurance, minus snow removal, minus landscaping, minus mortgage, minus damage to the property equals profit. That simple. So in other words, if you've got a property that's in the bad part of town, that's the worst house in the bad part of town, and your philosophy is the market's going to recover, you might want to let it go. A friend of mine always gave me this analogy. He says, if you're in a raft, okay, and you have 10 bars of gold, and the raft is only going to float if you have, say, like 2 bars of gold in it, what do? Me, personally, my friend, a lot of people that are very sensible people, they would throw 8 bars of gold out of the raft so they could make the sure. A lot of property owners, what they do is they, especially, residential landlords, is they'll just try to hold on to all of it, rather than cut their losses. I mean, what you want to do is you don't want to have the best house in the worst neighborhood. You want to have the worst house in the best neighborhood. And so a lot of what you have to consider here is, will this equation work? I mean, I would rather you not go out and get an attorney and fight your foreclosure if it's only going to mean you're holding on to something that's going to be a net liability, because it makes no sense. I mean, after all, let it be the bank's problem if it comes down to that. So I hope this has helped, and I've given you something to consider. And please watch the other videos on this channel. There's a lot of information there that, whether you're a landlord or not, you're going to need it. But I hope I've helped you landlords out there. Questions, comments, headlinecopy@gmail.com. I wish you luck, and let us know if there's a different type of video you want to see on a different subject. And I hope this was helpful.